healthy. In addition, of course, we all know that exercise moves the blood through the blood vessels, and that is a major factor in keeping the heart healthy. We are designed to move. We are designed to run, to walk, to lift, to squat. And so many of us now work at jobs that are mentally exhausting, where we use our bodies little or not at all, so that we're discouraged even from using our bodies when we're done working because we feel too tired, even though it's more of a mental tiredness. I am very much in favor of the treadmill office. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's a wonderful idea, and I truly hope that it sweeps the nation. Your desk and your computer is on a treadmill, and the treadmill is set very, very slowly. Usually it's set to 1 mile an hour. Now, an ordinary walking pace is about 3 miles an hour. Brisk walking pace is about 4 miles an hour. So you can imagine at 1 mile an hour, you're really strolling down the lane. And yet what it means is that instead of sitting at your desk doing work, that you are active the entire day. If you don't want to invest in the treadmill office, and these are available now, this is not just my imagining, but if you don't want to do that, and of course it would be expensive, you can buy an exercise ball and sit on an exercise ball at your desk rather than a chair. The exercise ball forces you to move, to find your center of gravity over and over again. It's especially useful for helping to maintain good pelvic floor integrity, but also all of the little muscles in your body, especially through your hips and your ribs, have to move and sway to keep track with that exercise ball. As I will admit, one night sitting on my exercise ball, working late, I fell asleep, fell off, and hit my head. These are the kinds of things that I think about in terms of keeping my heart healthy.
Okay.
One of my students called me up, and she was very upset because her cholesterol was high. And I said to her, cholesterol's an unproven theory, just as you're saying, we really just can't make it work out that high cholesterol leads to heart attacks, because it doesn't. I said, so I'm not worried about your cholesterol being high. But, as I was speaking to her, I'm getting a mental image of her. And she's one of those women who, she's a very womanly woman. I'm certainly not saying that she looks like a man, but she looks like a man in terms of she's more weight on top of her body than on the bottom of her body. And medical professionals talk about apples and pears, right? The women are pears, the weight's carried low, and men are, I guess they mean like red delicious apples, the weight is carried up in the shoulders and the chest. And that's where her weight was, up in the shoulders and chest, which is the heart attack area. And she said to me, well, my mom had a heart attack at 53, and my grandmother had a heart attack at 52. I'm thinking, wait, this is not good. And I said, okay, I would like you to go back, and I'd like you to have your C, reactive protein, tested. C-reactive protein is a protein that we find in the blood when there's inflammation of the blood vessels. And inflammation of the blood vessels very, very closely aligns with heart attack. You have blood vessels that are inflamed, you're not going to have a heart attack. My consort had a total cholesterol of over 400 for more than 10 years without ever having a heart attack because his blood vessels were not inflamed, despite the fact that every male member of his immediate family did die of a heart attack. So anti-inflammatories become critically important here. Well, my student called me back, and she said she had a little trouble getting a C-reactive protein test, but nowadays you won't because now they have a drug to treat it, and back then they didn't. She said the results had come in and it was really high. And I said, okay. Well, they just did a major study attempting to reduce C-reactive protein with B vitamins, and it did not work at all. So we're going to have to take it to Dreamtime. We're going to have to take it to the grandmothers and ask what we can do here. And she called me back a couple of days later, and she said, do you remember Margaret's song about the linden tree? And I said, ooh, wait a minute. Something about there's flowers, and there's fairies, and there's birds, and there's bees. She said, right. And the chorus goes, linden, linden, heal my heart. You can ring me a brand new start. I said, you called Margaret, didn't you? She said, of course I did. She said, so I'm going to start drinking linden infusion. Now, we don't need a whole ounce of linden. It's a big fluffy flower. So we use half an ounce of linden. Put it in our quart jar, fill it to the top with boiling water, put a lid on it, let it steep for 4 hours or overnight is better. this wonderful YouTube of me and apprentices harvesting linden at a local shopping mall, and a bunch of people coming by and listening in to what we had to say about linden. And, well, yeah, she drank linden. It's world's leading anti-cold and anti-flu herb, a cold preventative, flu preventative. But other than that, we couldn't find too very much in the books about it. And within 6 weeks, she had brought her C-reactive protein down by half, and her doctor was very happy. And that was over 10 years ago. I just got a note card from her the other day, and telling me, about all the wonderful things she's doing. So she's well past her mom's age of death, and I think that linden will give us a brand new start.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Other heart-healthy herbs we must mention would include hawthorn, which is the herb for the aging heart. We also say that anyone over 60 should consider making hawthorn an ally. We can make hawthorn leaf and flower infusion, and we can do hawthorn berry tincture and take those tinctures. Just about any way of using hawthorn is of benefit to the heart. And then there's motherwort, Leonuris cardiaca, the lion-hearted. If you ask people in Japan, what do you want to do to live a long time? They say, take motherwort every day. I prefer to tincture the flowering top of the plant rather than to use it in a water base. I find it basically ineffective as tea, yucky as an infusion, and just right as a tincture of the flowering plant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Green Meadow. You can help support Susan by visiting her website and forum at www.susanweed.com. Susan, we're going to move on to the change for both men and women. And my question is, as men age, sometimes starting as early as age 30, their testosterone levels decrease, resulting in depression, weight gain, loss of bone mass, irritability, lack of sex drive, lack of focus in their personal and professional lives, increased risk of cardiovascular issues, etc. I have read that most men do not realize that they are experiencing is from a lack of testosterone. While menopause in women is an acceptable and widely discussed health issue, the male counterpart, andropause, is rarely discussed. What are your suggestions for keeping men healthy and vibrant as they age from an herbal standpoint? And are there natural herbs or remedies that men can take to keep their testosterone levels at an optimal level?
When I read that question, I wondered if this question came from a drug representative.
No.
Every word in that question is a lie.
Oh, great. Okay.
Okay. I'm reading to you now from my book, Down There, Sexual and Reproductive Health, The Wise Woman Way, from the chapter called Testosterone Supplementation. The National Institutes of Health panel concluded 10 years ago that the andropause hypothesis is completely unproven and that testosterone supplementation is uncalled for and unnecessary for most men. Supplemental testosterone is sold as today's elixir of youth. It is supposed to delay or prevent erectile dysfunction, loss of muscle mass, and all the other ills of elderly men. Some men may benefit from testosterone, but very, very few. Up to 15% of healthy men over age 21 have testosterone levels that are more than 50% below the lower level of normal set by those who promote supplementation. In fact, and there's a very long article about this that I reference, when testosterone supplements were finally produced in non-injectable forms, they looked for a way to sell these testosterone supplements, and they decided that they would make up the equivalent of menopause and call it andropause, and that they would say that just as women lack estrogen at midlife, which is a lie, men lack testosterone at midlife, and therefore women have to take estrogen and men have to take testosterone. In order to back this up, they decided to measure testosterone levels in men so that they could set a normal range. And what they discovered was that the range of testosterone in men was quite extraordinary, that men could be sexually active, have good erections, and be absolutely manly with extremely low testosterone levels, and that on the other side of that, men could have erectile dysfunction and very great difficulties with very, very high testosterone levels. In other words, they could not find a norm. They simply made up a normal level in order to sell a hormonal drug. I am so sorry that this man who sent in this question has been pulled in by the lies of the industry. The tests that doctors use to measure testosterone levels, I'm reading from my book again, are notoriously unreliable. Furthermore, a man's testosterone levels are markedly different at different times of the day and different times of the year. The largest and longest-term study showed no improvements in energy level, sexual performance, or strength in men given testosterone supplements. Testosterone supplements elevate the risk of prostate cancer. In men older than 45, those taking testosterone were twice as likely to have prostate cancer. In those younger than 45, those using testosterone supplements were 3 times as likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and those cancers tend to be fast-growing, killing cancers. As men age, their blood does contain more testosterone-binding proteins. Thus, the amount of active testosterone does get less as the years go on, but the total amount of testosterone stays the same. This is also true for women. There's no woman who's estrogen deficient or progesterone deficient after menopause. Those are simply lies put up by the drug industry to convince us that something is wrong with us and we need to take their products. For both men and women, oat straw infusion, that's the grass of the plant that gives us the grain oats, oat straw infusion unbinds that bound testosterone. The proteins in the oat straw link to the testosterone binding proteins and thus free up the testosterone that our bodies have already made and allow us to use it to feel heightened libido, heightened sexual pleasure.
Thank you, Susan. Up next, we have Neil.
Hi,
Neil.
Susan. Hi, Susan. Neil here again. I have a question here from forum member Uranus Rising. And she says, in your book, The Menopausal Years, The Wise Woman Way, you wrote about the millions of women who have been through the change as having a very special place in what some call the earth changes, and that by 2013, the sister crones will constitute a great pool of collective wisdom that will be used to guide Gaia and the human species into a new era of global wholeness and personal health. So, would you elaborate on what you see as this new era as well as the role of the sister crones will play in it? And finally, what do you see that this has to offer brother men? Thank you.
Well, I think the statement in a way speaks for itself, and that is that in the United States, every minute a woman turns 50.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're looking at, I mean, Japan is already gearing up to have a third of its population be over 60.